Hey guys, Micah from Black Bear Custom Kydex. I've got a sheath to show you today, obviously. This one is this is a brand I've never actually worked with before as far as I know, as far as I recall. This is Rustic Knives, and that's Rustick knives. So I am really impressed so far. I don't know anything about this company. I don't know really anything about this knife even. Other than that, I think it looks phenomenal. I really love the look of this. I love the feel of it in hand, and it just feels like a quality blade. So this belongs to my client, James. And James, if you want to comment down below and let us know some more about this, if you happen to see this video and you want to chime in, type of blade steel, any other details you see pertinent. I think this is a G10 handle, but it could be micarta. I apologize, guys. I'm fairly confident that's G10, but sometimes I get them mixed up. It feels like G10, and up close it kind of looks more like G10. But yeah, you can obviously see it's in this kind of black and FDE layered G10. It's really, really cool. And yeah, just everything about this I really like. The one thing, I'm actually putting this out into the ether so you guys can tell me. Some of you guys are more knowledgeable on knives, anatomy, and all of that. So obviously we have a recurve and what looks to be a tanto here on the tip. But my question is it technically a tanto if the tip of the blade is not a straight line where it's curved here? This is almost a combination of like a tanto and a drop point in one. I'm assuming that because it does have more of an angle here, it is a tanto, but somebody smarter than me, comment down below and let me know what's up with it. So, all right. Like I said, client's name is James. James asked me if I could build him a sheath, sort of loosely based on one that I had done a few months back for a customer of mine who lives in Norway. And that sheath was for dark timber Comanche. So if you guys are familiar with that particular sheath, it got a lot of love on YouTube and Instagram. And this is sort of loosely based on that. Well, not loosely, it's very closely based on that. So he asked if I could do a couple things, very, very specific things. One was to make the shape of the knife itself. So we got a little bit of that recurve shape going on down here, and a little of that kind of, I'll just call it a little bit of a curved tanto at the tip here. But I tried my best to keep it as compact and slim as possible while also giving a little bit of a tribute to the shape of that blade, which I really, really like. I think this is just a very attractive knife. So we got that. He also asked if I could use 0.125 inch thick Kydex, the same as I did on the dark timber Comanche. Now the Comanche is about twice the size and weight of this knife, so it made a lot of sense to me to use 0.125 on that. It is the thickest Kydex that's available, so stands to reason it's going to be the most durable, the most rugged, the most rigid. And I would not have normally considered doing that for a knife this size, this weight. However, the customer asked for it, so I said, okay, let's do it. So that's what I've done here, and I'm really, really pleased and impressed with how this came out. So you can see that nice seamless edge. This is a 1/4 inch thick because it's 2 layers of 1/8 inch thick Kydex together. I'm not counting this layer here, the plate that's clearly not connected. I'm just talking about this seam that I'm running my finger along right now. It is a 1/4 inch thick. A lot of people are going to be put off by that because they think that's going to make it unnecessarily bulky and or heavy. And what I'll tell you right now is that obviously it's going to weigh a little bit more than if you use 0.080 or 0.093. However, the weight difference I think is fairly minimal if you compare it just based on thickness. And I'm not 100% certain if like the density is identical and all that, so the weight might scale up slightly differently, but let's assume that just based on thickness, the weight would also match proportionally. So if you have 0.08 thickness, that's 0.08 inches, and then 0.125, you're talking about a difference of 0.045. So essentially, this would be 150% heavier than 0.080. Now, if you're talking about a sheath, let's ignore the gator. Obviously, you got to ignore that because there's going to be just minimally more gator on this than there would be on the 080. Ignore all the other accessories, the hardware. We're just talking about the weight of the Kydex. It's the only difference that you're really going to see or feel. You'd be looking at something like, 2 ounces maybe for 080 which would put this at basically 3 ounces. So the difference in the weight, this is something I have to convince people of all the time. The difference in the weight between using 080 and 093 is basically indiscernible. The difference between 080 and 125 on a sheath is maybe you can notice it and feel it just slightly, but it's not going to be so significant that you feel like you're carrying around a big bulky weighty thing. It's not going to affect you in that way. If it does, I highly recommend that you start taking some iron supplements and hitting the gym, because you're a weak body. Seriously, if that's like too much weight for you, that extra ounce, then I don't know what to tell you. That's a little bit extreme. But in my opinion, I think the trade-off is worth it to carry a little bit extra weight, literally like 1 or 2 ounces extra, even on a larger sheath, maybe 3 ounces extra. But to have something that is so much more durable and rugged, to me, it's worth it. And like I said, it really hadn't occurred to me to even try using 125 on smaller knives, but the client asked for it specifically with this. And like I said, I'm very, very impressed with how it came out. So if you check out the fit here, nothing is really compromised. The difference, the pitch of the click is a little bit lower with the thicker Kydex because it doesn't want to move as much. However, this is really in there. I'm shaking the daylights out of this and it's not moving. You got no rattle in the actual, no rattle, no play with the knife inside the sheath. It's really solid. And at the same time, you've got a very easy one-handed draw, and depending on how hard you draw, you can get it to kind of shoot off ballistically. But there is a lot of contour on the top of this, so when it starts to slide off, the sheath has a tendency to jiggle, which breaks up the momentum. So I don't necessarily want to call it a ballistic draw, but it's obviously a very easy one-handed draw, whether the sheath is braced wearing it on a tech lock or whether it's a dangler facing downward. Gravity would do all that you need it to do to break your knife free. So I'm really just overall extremely happy with how this came out and how it looks, how it feels, how it performs. So let's look at all the different elements on this real quick. I'm trying to keep the video a little bit abbreviated here because I don't want to go on too long. So, all right, we have a Nano Striker XL from Exotac here on the front. I did put a little shock cord on it, but to be perfectly honest with you, the holder itself is very, very secure. It's snug. It's not going anywhere. It is bi-directional, so if you wanted to have it facing this way, you could definitely do that. You just kind of have to find the point where it feels snug and goes in there. The reason why you're looking at this shape, this little triangle sticking off beyond the contour of the actual sheath, is because this is totally ambidextrous. I'm going to show you that in just a second as well. Personally, I prefer to carry it like so, because most likely if I'm using it, it's going to be easier to draw it toward the handle. Whatever hand is drawing the knife, I would probably feel more comfortable drawing the accessories as well. That's just me, but you obviously have the option to switch that up if you want to. Down here at the tip, we have a Sunto clipper compass. It is removable. All you have to do is kind of, if you look at it right here, it's laying very flush against the top of that alligator skin on that plate. But if you lift up the front of it, you can see that tooth come out of that drill hole there, and then you sort of just slide it off. It's really easy to take on and off. And the reason I make my compasses removable on all of my sheaths is because there are metallic elements, obviously not the least of which is the knife itself, and that's going to throw off your reading. So if you're looking at this, you know, all of the hardware on the sheath. Now let me put this down. I don't know, it's not sitting flat. There we go. So obviously the compass goes nuts when there's any kind of metal around it. So we got to avoid that. So you can just pull this off the sheath, take an accurate reading, and then put it back on and move forward. On the back here, you have your 2 carry setups. This is an invention of mine called the Tech-Lock Clasp Dangler. There is one other guy out there using it, and as far as I can tell, he's trying to claim it for his own, but everybody can see that he has evolved his to actually look even exactly like mine. So this is something that I created a couple of years ago, and I think it's picking up a lot of popularity right now because people are seeing the value in basically having multiple ways that you could carry your knife, multiple options. And this is just a really simple solution to give you that option. It's also a really quick solution, so you don't have to do anything with taking hardware on and off. And especially when you're out in the field, it's really valuable to be able to do that, because you might not want to carry, tool bag or screwdrivers or whatever, but you could very easily do this without the use of any tools. So essentially all it is a thick piece of Kydex that's folded over a D-ring. These pieces of hardware here at the bottom are stoppers, and this contour up here is a stopper as well. It fits perfectly into your tech lock. It's also the same thickness as the belt recess of the tech lock, so it's not going to rattle this way. And depending on where you place your belt spacers, you can minimize the rattle side to side as well. It's not going to rattle while you're wearing it, I highly doubt, but there's just that little bit of play due to the size of the belt spacers. So obviously it's super easy to put on, very easy to take off. And what I would recommend doing is just put this on your belt. If you're a right-handed user, you'd probably want it to be roughly at your 3 o'clock, and you just leave it there on your belt. And when you want to add the sheath to the belt, you just bring your tech lock up like that and snap it on, lock the tech lock, and you are good to go with the dangler. When you want it to switch to a scout carry or cross draw or anything, you just take that sucker off and do what you got to do there. It's very, very easy, very quick. Another thing I want to point out with this sheath is that you're not going to be able to really see it, but the drill hole spacing is friendly to carry this in a horizontal position, or you can turn your tech lock 90 degrees and carry it upright in a perfectly vertical position. But you can also use these same 2 drill holes, 1 and 3, as you're counting down the sheath. You can see that there's another screw there inside, but I didn't put it through the tech lock for a couple different reasons. But anyway, if you use drill holes 1 and 3 or eyelets 1 and 3, you can also span this hole here down to the corner hole of the tech lock, which means that you can tilt your tech lock at, let me grab you, this is my little tech lock I use as a stencil, but you could be wearing it at an angle like this. So you can cheat the angle there on that difference. I made the eyelets just slightly wider apart than the 1.5 inches that's standard to a tech lock, which means that you're going to be able to do that with either the 1.5 inch spread from the corner to corner or from the corner to the middle side. So yeah, you can wear this tech lock in 3 different positions minimum. So it's really cool. And then also, I think it's really valuable to have sheaths that are ambidextrous. Part of the reason why is because you have obviously a carry setup right now that's inherently right-handed, but then you take this off and this might be a right-handed, on the left side cross draw, or it might be a left-handed scout style sheath. So in the small of your back, you reach behind and grab it with your left. But if you wanted this to be a right-handed scout sheath as a right-handed user, you could obviously switch the tech lock to the opposite side. Now this is where this ambidextrous design comes in. You can see that I'm using the corners this way. I'm spanning from corner to corner rather than both of the same, in the same row as far as how to mount this, which means that if you flipped it the opposite way, you would have that same angle, the exact same position reflected on the opposite side. That was necessary to be able to do this as an ambidextrous carry. And same thing goes for the compass plate. Rather than try to make this plate ambidextrous with all the weird shape on it, I just said I'd make a second plate, and you can obviously see how that's a perfect mirror image of the first one. So this works really nicely. You can switch this to ambidextrous or to left-handed carry. The other thing about it that makes it really valuable is if you ever do go to sell your knife and you find a left-handed buyer, or if you're left-handed, you find a right-handed buyer, or whatever it is, they've got a custom sheath that will work for them no matter which hand is their dominant hand, and that's going to really bolster the value of your sale, especially when it comes to a premium option like alligator skin. Anybody who's bought an alligator wrapped Kydex sheath from me can tell you alligator is expensive. It is hard to work with, and the material itself is quite pricey, so I obviously have to charge a lot to be able to do this. However, in my opinion, this is the top of the line option. This is the most premium option that I have as far as your material choices are concerned. The reason I say this is because Gator is just very, very rugged. I think aesthetically it's really pleasing, and it's just a really comfortable option as well. So you kind of get the best of all worlds. You get the comfort of leather, but you get a lot of the durability and ruggedness of Kydex, where regular cowhide might be a little bit more vulnerable. Leather, alligator leather is a lot more rugged. So in just about every respect, I love the alligator skin above all other options. I also think the colors are really cool. You can get it in multiple different colors, but I kind of like this. This is the natural color of the gator. It comes like a little bit of a chocolatey brown, but when I add a little bit of waterproofing with some mink oil paste, it darkens up and you start to see kind of those browns and deep reds in there. It's almost like a mahogany color, and I just think it's really, really pleasing to the eye. So anyway, guys, that is pretty much all I've got for you. I'd love your opinions down below. Let me know what you think of this Rustic Knives Ripper. If you have any other experience with Rustic Knives, I'd love to know more about the company. Like I said, James, if you happen to see this, I'd love to know what the steel is on this knife and any other information that you think is pertinent. If the owners or employees of Rustic Knives want to comment it, I'd be really honored to hear directly from the maker as well. So, all right, guys, like, share, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for tuning in for this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. God bless.